Welcome, Business Geeks, to the Business Geeks podcast. We're getting started just a few minutes late here, and we're down one Business Geek for this week, but that's okay. We still have Samantha Riley from SamanthaRiley.global in the house. I'm Super Joe Pardo from SuperJoePardo.com. It's going to be a great show because we have quite a few topics to go through, a couple of questions, and there was a topic that I was out to eat with my daughter after she got her COVID-19 vaccination shot. And I was like, I need to remember this. And I don't remember what it is. It slipped my mind. So we'll see if I can remember.
Let's see if that comes back.
We will see what happens. What's up, Brian Little? How are you doing? Dave King, Happy New Year to all of you. Samantha Riley, Happy New Year to you, where it's already New Year's Eve.
It is New Year's Eve here. I can't believe this year. There was some times where I thought it was going on forever, but really, if I reflect, it's gone so quickly. It has gone so quickly for me. I don't know about you. Hey, John.
Hey, John. Good to see you. Good to see you, Brian and Dave. This year, well, we'll get to that in a second. First, I want to put out the question: what is your 2022 goals? New Year's resolution. Hopefully not.
Well, we could make a revolution.
Oh,
or not?
No. We have enough
no.
of that going on here in the country.
Exactly.
It's a little too close to home.
That's so far away from what you and I are.
Yes.
So yes. No, I've seen a few people saying, there's a few 2022 memes out there of, everyone just, tiptoe quietly into 2022. Don't say it's going to be your year. Just like, don't disturb anything. But, all jokes aside, I'm positive for 2022. I think it's going to be a great year. And even, there has been, and I think this is really important for me, and I don't know if it's you've had this experience, Joe, so I'd love to hear your take on it. But there's been so much angst and challenges and crazy things happening in the past couple of years, but at the same time there's been so many great things that have happened. And I think that for Leon and I, we've been really conscious about noticing those good things that are happening, thanking, the universe. That's the way we are, thanking the universe for these things, and having gratitude for being here, having a roof over our head, being healthy, because if we don't focus on those positive things, those negative things can really, really take over, right? So, I'm looking forward to 2022.
This year, it was Christmas Day, and I was going through my text messages to text all the people's Merry Christmas and all that. And God, there was so many text messages that I apparently missed. And I know, I remember when I got these text messages, and it was from February. Oh, whoa. And it was still fresh in my mind. I looked at this and I was like, oh yeah, I meant to get back. That's one thing I would like to see in 2022.
I meant to get back.
Unread your text messages. We have a free email to unread an email. I want to be able to unread a text message so I can put the notification back in there so I know to come back to it, because it just slips away too quickly. And yeah, this year, in the moment, I think it didn't feel like it went by that fast. Reflecting on it, I think it flew by compared to 2020. It flew by, and I can't believe we're already at 2022. And as far as
we're close, but not quite yet.
No, you're a lot closer than we are here in the States. But we're just there's the whole we try to keep it. I try to keep it positive, right? The whole super mantra and all that, right? So I like to think that there's some positive things on the horizon. I kind of have my doubts for this year. As a whole, I really, I have my doubts. So I think that's why we got to look and be as positive as possible, because I don't think it's outwardly going to be a super positive year, especially here in the States. We got our midterm elections in November. We have, the illness is raging through the country. I mean, I can't even count on the two hands I have how many people I know that are dealing with the illness right now.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Personally,
Yeah, lots of
it's
friends that have
wow.
spent Christmas sick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely it sucks to be sick, but it really sucks to like get sent to a hospital, be on a ventilator, and those are the cases that we want to, not have happen. But so I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful. But I don't know. I don't have I don't have the best of feelings
Yeah,
going into it.
and I totally agree with you. And I think that we need to be aware of what's coming up, but not focus on it. And I think that the difference is, yeah, don't focus on that, but be aware so that you can plan. Well, plan as much as possible, right? Whilst you can't plan, we know that there's certain things on the horizon. So what are we doing in our business or in our lives to help us when these things happen?
Yeah, and that's always like we try to put a positive spin on everything that we can, even though it's like inside it's like the SpongeBob's running around when everything's on fire and nobody can find anything. We know that this is like we're internalizing and living it externally, but at the same time we put a smile on our face and try to make the best for us and the people around us, all having their own mini SpongeBob freak out moments internally.
Exactly. And I know that I definitely had one of those, actually multiple of those SpongeBob moments. But when we had like, obviously, well, not obviously, no one knows. We had Christmas and New Year's in lockdown in Australia, like 2020, sort of coming into 21. So that wasn't, for me, that wasn't great to have like full lockdown over that festive period and not see friends and not see family, and thought we were sort of on the other side of that. And then we're in another 4-month lockdown in the year, and that 4-month lockdown, I was not in a good place. Like, I got really low, which is not like me. I can normally, we all have moments of, I don't feel great, but we all do, right? But that particular one, yeah, I got kicked to the curb in that lockdown, but we're out the other side. Thank goodness.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put it back out into the chat again because I see we have more people watching now. What is your 2022 goals and or resolutions that you're looking to accomplish for the the upcoming year? And before we get
Brian's put his in there.
Yes, we will get to Brian's when we get there. But before we get there, I wanted to go and bring up the story that came up. Did you have a chance to read this story a little bit?
I did have a chance to read this story. I'm so interested on your take here.
Oh, I have very strong opinions about this, from my background, and as I imagine you probably do too. I would think we might be in the same.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're on the same page, but I'm still not 100% sure. I didn't, when I read it, I nearly messaged you, but I didn't. We're like, keep it fresh, guys.
Yes, ding ding. Keep it for the show, right? You gotta keep it fresh for the show. So it says a DoorDash employee making $400,000 a year complained about a company-wide initiative requiring that he personally make one delivery a month.
One whole delivery. Oh my goodness.
I mean, it probably
not even
could be
one day. Not even one day. Not even one day.
Not even a whole day. Which a day would be a lot. Don't get me wrong, right?
I get that.
Because if you're especially in a higher position, like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people counting on you to like do your job and like be available and things of that nature. Depending on where you are in the pecking order, of course, there's a lot of middle management that doesn't need nothing. But anyway, so DoorDash is reinstating its We Dash program. The program requires staff, including the CEO, to work as delivery drivers at least once a month. One employee who said they make $400,000 a year vented on social media about having to do the program. Without going in, like I can link this in the description. I'll try to remember to do so. But oh man, it burns me up that somebody, and I'll take I'll take Jen's spot here, and not her not being here
because we're missing her.
Yes, this look. Entrepreneurship and business ownership is not for everybody, right? If it was easy, everybody would do it. Mm-hmm. Everyone would have their own company, their own work truck, their own this, their own, everybody would have that thing. Having a program that enables your team to experience the pains in the butts that your system provides is a key factor in making change happen. I would go as far to say, if people that worked at Disney actually had to call up Disney, for Walt Disney World, to book a vacation, they would change their system in a heartbeat, because waiting online for 3 hours to have your cell phone crap out, or their system crap out on you and hang up on you is maddening. And we'll speak about Madden later on in the show, and I didn't write that in the notes, but we gotta talk about Madden. It's insane. So having the opportunity to have your team go through the pains and the trials and tribulations, even if it's as small as, hey, Sam, I know you got to meet your requirement. I need coffee. Let me pull up the app and boop, boop, boop. And all right, go down to the corner and grab coffee and bring it back. Okay. It's not like we're asking, you to get in your car, wait around, all these DoorDash and Uber Eats people have to wait around in their car waiting for that order to come through, or cycling their entire day around those deliveries, because you don't have to, but you won't get the good deliveries if you don't. If you're not a reliable employee, and I'm putting that in air quotes for people listening at home,
because they're not. That's it, right?
Right, they're not employees. But if you're not a good contractor, or you're not you're here for lunch, dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner on a regular basis, you're not going to get the good routes. You're not going to get the good deliveries. You're not going to get the good tippers. You're just not going to get those. And it's not going to be as lucrative for you. So, I, as somebody who grew up in a family business, that, we have to know every step of the bit, everything that's going on, and cross-training people, because when someone's out, we have to pick up the slack. There isn't their assistant will just pick up the slack. It absolutely creates, it creates a different, different mentality. And to the person who, wrote on social media that they're making $400,000 a year, they are just, there's a word my grandfather would use if he was still alive today. I can't think of the word. Yuppie. These yuppies from the Silicon Valley, that are all making, insano money and have no care in the world, or have no ties to real life living at that point. Just would not understand. They just don't get it, that it's really important. Look, it doesn't even just turn on the TV and watch Undercover Boss. And you guys have a great version of that down in Australia as well. I've seen a few of those episodes. I think it was in Australia.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
But yeah, so where people have to, the boss goes undercover to get the story, right? So yeah, I'm very not that's if that's a problem, go find another job. Go be happy somewhere else. I'm all for. The goal is always to make everybody happy, right? And if you can't be happy there's other places to go be happy.
Yeah, I think there's two points for me. Number one is what you're talking about there, where, they're the ones that are in the, let's say the head office, creating the systems, creating the procedures, and there's nothing like actually being out there and discovering it for yourself to understand how things work. So that's the first point, which you've covered. But the second point, and we've mentioned this on the last two shows, is the culture. If you're a driver, or, if you're a delivery person and you feel that the people at the top are looking down on you, how does that feel? It's not creating a cohesive team, right? It's not creating an inclusive culture. So it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I think having that thing to be able to bond over, and to be able to have something that's so, I don't want to say simplistic 'cause that's not the word that I'm looking for, but to be able to have a system where you could plug and play people into, and like you go do the thing, is not the same as saying, well, Billy down in manufacturing has 20 years of experience doing this part. Yeah, Mr. CFO, go down there and do his thing and pretend you could do it. As like, that's not, in this case, it's like anybody can pick up food and deliver it. Come on now. Like, to some extent, everybody could do that. So I think it's great to have that. And I don't know why it went away in the first place. I didn't did they mention that at the bottom of the article?
I didn't read that part at all.
I'm gonna guess,
but I
2020,
may have, yeah.
Yeah,
I would think so. What was interesting is, as I was reading that article, there was a conversation that I was involved, well, actually, it wasn't, with the family on Christmas Day. And one of our family members, actually a few of them, work for one of the big grocery chains here in Australia. And at Christmas time, so Christmas week, obviously in food is extremely, extremely busy. And it's not a kind of a slowly ramp up kind of thing. It's just like 2 days before Christmas, their sales go through the roof, they get completely hit. So it's company policy that people in head office head to the stores and help out just for one of those days. And they were saying that generally these people from head office come in late, they come in with the coffee, they do kind of like one thing, and then they just they walk off. And it's creating a huge them and us culture. Well, it's stuck because it's just the way that this company has been running for years. And I just think that by not addressing that problem, that the culture in these companies is going to be hurt so much more than just that one day and that one thing. Again, we've talked about that the last couple of weeks, but culture is so important. It affects so much.
100%. And it can be, it's easy to overlook it, right? It's easy to think like, oh, well, we have people that have, and we were guilty of this back in the Pardo truck parts days, where it's like, well, we've had people work here for like 20 years and we must be doing something right and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but the culture, like when you talk to those people, they're not particularly happy about a lot of the things that are happening in the day-to-day interactions between the company and you. And part of the problem, not all the problem, but part of that problem might be, the lack of ability to just jump ship and go somewhere else because of the niche that we were in, right? We had that as a piece of the puzzle that wasn't as simple as like, oh, I'll just go get another start. I'll just go work at one of the other 10 coffee shops, or I'll go work at one of the other fast food chains. Except in the case where, what was it? McDonald's, I think it was like having basically kids, quote unquote, sign non-compete contracts so they couldn't go work at Wendy's.
What?
Yes.
Oh, come on.
We didn't talk
Come
about
on.
I think I talked about this in one of the entrepreneurs videos.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, like how are you? There's no company secrets being shared at the burger flipping level here. Even the cash register, anybody that's not a manager, maybe assistant manager, but probably not. No, it's cruel. It's cruel.
Totally.
To do anything like that. So Brian Little asked a question about investing, and I am not the investing guy. That is very much Graham Stephan. That is very much, meet Kevin and some of the other. What's that other Ty? Not Ty. Trey's Trades. He's great for that stuff. But I did look it up, the question up on Google to get an answer, so we could at least have some answer. So his question was I'm just being transparent here. Look,
I think that's smart.
I'm not, this is literally going to come from Intuit TurboTax is the answer. He asked, do short-term capital gains actually hurt you or you come tax season, swing trading, etc.? And according to them, you typically, according to Intuit TurboTax, I'll pull it up here. You typically do not benefit from any special tax rate on short-term capital gains. Instead, these profits are usually taxed at the same rate as your ordinary income. This tax rate is based on your income and filing status Other items to note about short-term capital gains: the holding period begins ticking from the day after you acquire the asset up to and including the day you sell it. For 2021, ordinary tax rate range 10% to 37%, depending on your income and filing status. Now, what I can say, oh, you probably couldn't even read that because I had the question up. So what I can say about this though is that I would say the general best practices that I've learned from watching a lot of people and some of my friends that do invest more than I do, or more in the day trading side, I should say, is it's, really generally better to just buy and hold, because then you're not falling to that tax thing, at least until they change the capital gains tax rules. If they change the capital gains tax rules in 2022, and hopefully not, because I think the question of it going up to like 40% is kind of insane, and I could go down a whole rabbit hole on taxes, as far as, like I talked about this in the Entrepreneurs, where Elon Musk was talking about, like, how can they tax things that are unrealized? Like, I bought a painting, so the painting went from being $1 million to $2 million, and now you're going to tax me on that capital gains of $2 million, but it's not really been assessed, it's not been realized, and until somebody actually buys it, how can we, like, how am I supposed to come up with the money for that? So basically what you're saying is just don't buy it, don't invest anything anywhere, because you're going to tax me on not just paintings, but on stocks, say, on anything basically that goes up in value.
I think that, well, obvious our tax system is different in Australia, but I would definitely be consulting your accountant on that. In Australia, we would just checking, because they know your numbers, they know where you're sitting. They can help you make sure that you're purchasing your investments in the right structures, blah, blah, blah. So I think that getting specific advice and having some sort of advisor that you can trust and work with continually, not just on a one-off question, but continually working with, is what I would suggest. Because you can make a lot of mistakes. You can.
Yes. And you can end up owing on those mistakes. And this is, this chart here from 2020, shows that, like, unless you're making a significant amount of money on those investments, it's probably not going to make much of a difference. Because you also have to remember that it's only on the gains in which you're gaining. You also can take on those like tax credits, if you will, for the losses, right? So yeah. But at the end of the day, Sam's right. Consult an actual accountant. Brian, I have a couple of accountants I can recommend to you here in the States that do really good tax preparation stuff. If you're falling into a category that's like, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, as a swing, versus like, ooh, I made $5,000. Like, nobody, at least as of today, nobody's going to be chasing you down. There was talks of that happening as well in here in the States, where they were like, oh, if you do anything with that, like literally anything on Venmo over, I don't know, $6,000 a year or something like that, was going to be taxed. And it's like, is it really worth the effort to go through? Are we really doing the best we can here? But so there was a question brought up here by Al, who said, did y'all hear, or did y'all hear about Apple giving their employees $180,000 bonus so they don't go to the metaverse?
No way. I did not hear about this.
I heard about that. So of course I Googled it here. And yeah, their top engineers bonus is $180,000 to curtail defections to Meta. And
wow.
So that ding ding on Apple's part for recognizing that they might have a huge problem on their hand if a whole bunch of their people just up and left. Now, $180,000, I guess that's up of. I guess this should be up to $180,000. So that doesn't mean everybody got $180,000.
That's a decent amount.
It is, but you might, you still have to be. I'm curious, though, without reading about it, what stipulations come. So it said many of the engineers received amounts roughly 80,000, 100,000, 120,000 in shares, said the people who asked not to be identified because the program isn't public. The perk was presented by managers as a reward for high performers. A representative of a Cupertino, California-based company declined to comment. You mean Apple? What's the point of that? I never understood that way of framing things. Apple is waging a talent war. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, they did have that poaching, the anti-compete poaching thing from like a number of years ago, where they all agreed to like not poach each other, and then that got busted up, fortunately. But I don't know if that's. I don't even know if that's enough to like keep people on. People that are unhappy are going to be unhappy. Now, that thing I think maybe makes a bigger difference is Apple not pushing people back into the office. Not that $100,000 doesn't speak a lot of, speak volumes, but when it comes to people being happy, like I could program here or I could program over there. Like one's pushing me to come into work and one's not.
If they are happy already, that's a really nice bonus to receive.
Yes.
That's a different conversation, right? Whether they're happy or whether they're not happy. But I don't know. I'm all for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, Apple's one of the richest companies on the planet. Like, I'm definitely open to them making sure that they take care of their employees above and beyond and competing, because that's all part of the competition, right? In business, and making sure that you keep your people happy and talent fed is making sure that you offer things that like nobody else is offering and going above and beyond, raising the stakes. Because at the end of the day, who benefits? The little people. And I put that in quotes too, but the little people, that like, okay, you're an engineer. Doesn't mean you're going to be the next Steve Jobs. It just means you're an engineer, right? And you got bills to pay, a family to feed, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's not again, not everybody's going to go off and be the next, just because you're an engineer, be the next Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs, or Hewlett Packard. Yeah,
I know Mr. a few people that work for Apple and they love it. They absolutely love it. They're not engineers, and obviously it's Apple Australia. But the people that I know that are there they would have to have some amazing opportunity for them to leave, because they're super happy there.
Yeah. So Locutus says, I work for one of the UK's largest supermarkets. They have been worried about the rise of Aldi and Lidl, which we have both of them here in the States. Lidl's, I don't know if they've been in the States longer, but in our local area, they've been like in the Philly area. There's a couple of them that have cropped up. So they have been they've been cost cutting like crazy the last few years. And what happens when there is a senior management inspection, they stock all the shelves, make sure everything is in place, is clean and tidy. When the managers come to check the store, they think that they have too many staff because everything is full and the store is tidy.
That I know that happens here in Australia too. And I know that when Leon was working for a large supermarket chain, and when he was a group manager, he would actually tell his store managers not to do that. He wanted to see how it looked, at all times, not have some sort of fake representation on one day of what was going on. So, yeah.
And that takes a lot of, I'm trying to think of a clean word to say it. That takes a lot of gumption and a lot of integrity to do that, and a lot of courage and confidence that they're not going to walk in and be like, you knew we were coming and you did nothing. You're fired. You know what I mean? Because like that's that's where the we kind of got into this, I think, last week. I think Al asked about CEOs not owning the company. Like they don't own it. They don't have like skin in the game with the company, but they're the CEO of the company. And it's similar along the same lines of like, if you are dependent, if you're a manager of that store and you're dependent on that amount of money to be coming in, you're a lot less likely to take risks. You're a lot less likely to tell people they're wrong. You're a lot less likely to do the right thing and investigate to find what the right thing is, because your livelihood is dependent on it, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes a tricky situation of, is what the person who's in charge, are they capable of doing the right thing? Now, it can go the opposite way too, where we see it in sports all the time, where people, you make you made $140 million. Like, do they need to throw the ball that well? Do they really need to be like, and say 80 million of that's guaranteed? So it's like they could literally break their arms and legs tomorrow and their career's over. And it doesn't matter, because at least they're walking away with, 50 to 80 million dollars.
Crazy.
It is. The senior managers need to inspect the place without an announcement. They need to see what the place. Yeah, I'm going to say what the place is. Here you go. What the place looks like during a surprise. Yeah, there should be surprise visits. That's why they have secret shoppers and things like that. I know that's a pretty big industry, actually, that you can get paid for to go and be a secret shopper for companies. Now, speaking of secrets, let's talk 2022 and the secrets. Well, all right, before we get to 2022, let's say something nice about 2021. Do we have anything? Can anybody in the comments say anything nice?
Oh, come on. There's lots. That's what that's how we started the show. We need to acknowledge the good things that have happened in between the other stuff. Let's just say that.
Amen.
Yeah. I know for me, one of, like, on a personal level, my personal trainer moved to a different state right as lockdown happened. I could have easily dropped the bundle, but I kept training with her over Zoom and have been twice a week. And I'm so glad I did, because that is the thing that actually got me through that crazy lockdown, was knowing that, I had to show up and do my personal training session twice a week. And, definitely it was interesting. She sent me a photo yesterday. We had our last session of the year, of the screen when I wasn't kind of watching, when I was too busy huffing and puffing and doing what I was doing. But it was nice to see what how that's planned out, or how it's turned out, I should say, because especially something with like fitness or health, sometimes it can feel like you're not getting anywhere because it happens so slowly. So it's really, really cool to actually stop and go, wow, that's where I was at the start of the year. That's how I finished the year. I'm impressed. I'm happy with that. I'm really proud of myself for finishing the year like that. So that's one of my personal wins.
I love that. I'm gonna play the celebration music. That's probably too loud. Yes, that's the celebration music. I don't get to play that often. And I should probably lower that a little bit. But for me, I'm gonna say, another year in the books, getting to spend more time with my family than I would normally would have been prior to March 2020. And combine that with the growth of the YouTube channel and the growth of Indie PodCon. And yeah, those are probably the nicest things I could say about 2021. That, and it flew by. So
yeah, it did. It did. But you've had there's some amazing wins there. And isn't it interesting that this is a business show, and you and I both eat, breathe, love business, right? Like, we really do love business. But the first thing that both of us said was a win that was a personal win. And I think that's really important to realize that, as much that we have this whole life and business is just part of it. And as much as we love it, you and I know Jen is exactly the same. That's why she's not here. She's hanging out with Thor. And I think that's really cool. We make sure that we look after ourselves, and so that we can, really, have this amazing life. That's why we go into business.
Can I just point out, she hasn't been in the comments, so that means she's actually doing what she's supposed to be doing.
Excellent.
Which is awesome. At least I assume she's not just lurking, in the comments. But so I think that is huge, right? And it's so important that we figure out what's important to us, and weight that against the things that we enjoy and love doing. And yeah, business 100%. Like, it's everything. It's everything. It's life. for a certain point. But at the same point, what makes us different is our passion for it, making sure that it's not our lifestyle too.
Yeah,
like
totally.
people that I grew up around, like my grandfather, my great uncle, my great grandfather, my dad, like, finding that balance and enjoying what we do at the same time. Like that's like the number one thing.
Totally. But having
But
boundaries.
trying to, at least, right? And
Yeah.
it's not always perfect.
No.
Not always perfect. Locuta says, well, at work, I was awarded Christmas Service Superstar,
That's
a
awesome.
rare and difficult award to win. That is awesome. Congratulations.
So good.
That is awesome. That just goes so far. Like that reminds me of like whenever I walk into a cell phone store, like my cell phone provider store, or really like anywhere, and I get like excellent service. It just stands out to me. And I actually requested to talk to the manager on behalf of somebody to compliment them the other day. I don't know if I said this I think it was last week, but I don't know if I said it on the show last week. I was so impressed with this team member's like attitude. She was by herself, running the counter, like running all the cash registers at once by herself at a Best Buy, and she was just doing it all. And she's like, "Oh, like I'm gonna go back there and find that thing myself." I was like, No. I was like, you just stay there, take care of the customers here. I'm fine. I'm not in a rush. It's okay. It's gonna happen the way. And then the manager came out. I was like, look, she is awesome. Like she needs.
Oh, that's so good.
She needs A, more support, but B, raise more responsibilities, training other people on how to be nice and how to be cool under pressure when there's like 7 people that just keep backing up and she's the only person working at the counter at the time. Like that's the kind of stuff that just goes so far. And I just appreciate it. And that's the kind of people that's like, I want to be like, do you want a job? Because we need more people like you on our team.
Absolutely.
Finding those kinds of situations and pointing them out. But
well, I hope Undercover Boss shows up at her work one day then.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay, so we said something nice. Was there a favorite thing that we have that's come across in 2021?
Definitely for me, the biggest thing that's happened this year is stepping into I guess the more spiritual side, or showing it. It's always something that I've had behind the scenes. You know about it, Joe. There's been many conversations where you're like, yeah, I don't know, Sam. And I think that there's a lot of other people in my world that have said the same thing. So I've kind of kept it hidden and behind the scenes, where this year I went, no, I do need to step into that. I do need people to know that this is how I run my business, that I am very systems and process driven, and I'm all about knowing the numbers and the KPIs. But then there's this other side that I use to holistically bring everything together, in the more spiritual side, and specifically the use of human design and how I tap into that, and tapping into our energy and how that works. So that was the biggest win for me this year, is to come out of the spiritual closet and actually share with people, hey, this is what I do, and getting amazing results with my clients. And also, like, I know this is just so crazy, but attracting more people that believe in the same thing.
I want you to talk about that a little bit, because that was actually, I think that was the thing from the beginning of the show that I meant to think about, to write down, that I didn't write down, was the change that you made to your podcast. And how you came up with that thought process, and well, you kind of talked a little bit about that, but talk about the change.
Yeah, so my podcast that I'd had far out for a few years anyway, I can't remember what year I started it, was Thought Leaders Business Lab. I do work with emerging thought leaders. I help them to build, $1 million businesses. That's what I help them to do. But I felt like that was just a small part of what I did. And like I just mentioned, I talk a lot about energy and human design, which is our unique energetic blueprint. So I had this feeling during the year that maybe I could tighten message a little bit to really attract the right people that also believed in that same thing. So had a conversation with quite a few people. Actually, I think you and I even had a conversation of, I'm thinking about rebranding the podcast. Is it a smart move? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And had been toying with it for a few months. But then a really good friend of mine, Melanie Benson, was having a chat with me, and she helped me to really, really unpack what it is that I do. And it really essentially is help people to build more influence. So rebranded the podcast to Influence by Design, still talking about the same, marketing and strategy and all of the things about how to grow your business, but started to bring in more of those conversations around energy and spirituality and how that all comes together. And super happy. As soon as I did it, what's interesting? Downloads went straight up. Isn't that interesting?
Well, we talk about niching all the time and avatar building and all these types of things that it can be easy to talk about. It's sometimes it's not easy to sit down and actually like do it and put it into practice and then look at like, oh, but does all my people really fit into this that are currently, say, listening to my show or trafficking my business and that kind of stuff? And sometimes you have to be willing to let go of what you had to get something better, right? And
right. And I'm really glad you said that, because there was this exciting time of like, yep, we're going to rebrand and team meeting, and guys, this is what we're going to do. And we need to put together a campaign to roll this, the rebrand out. Exciting until the day before. And I got this sick feeling in the pit of my stomach of, what if I have done the wrong thing? What if I lose all of my listeners? Like, there was that, it was scary. And even like the day that we did that relaunch, I was like, oh, what's going to happen? It's great to sit on this side and say it all went well, but let me tell you, there was a couple of days there where I really, really questioned whether I'd lost my marbles.
And hey, Lou, happy New Year. Good to see you in the chat.
Happy New Year, Lou.
And I've been through that conversation through, myself with my shows over the years and what I want to do and my businesses and things like that. And I'll tell you, each time you do it, it just gets easier. Right. And it gets less frightening. And you just know that it's, anytime I've even just as recently as a month and a half ago when I was doing the entrepreneurs like 5 days a week. And then I was like, yeah, like I'm seeing the numbers. I'm not getting enough traction for the amount of time I'm putting in. Not that I'm putting in like countless hours, but I'm just not getting that traction there that would justify me investing a few more hours to make it even better. And it's like, all right, well, I'm just gonna cut it off for now, and I can always come back and do it. And I have plans to actually potentially do that. But it's got to be the right, the right thing. It's got to be the right mix.
Well, look, we did it with this show, right? We started the year with Business Geeks. We took a hiatus for most of the year because we were all a little bit burnt out, needed to regroup and get some energy back and come back. And that space that we all took has enabled us to come back with a slightly different format, which all three of us are loving. We're loving this new format. We've talked a lot about it, behind the scenes. So being able to step away and take a breath is a really great thing.
100%. And that's awesome to hear, Lou. It's always great that we can offer up timely when we're reading your mind. It's okay.
Oh, a relaunch, Lou. If you want any help, I've just been through it. Send me a message. We had a lot of. I'm actually really proud of how the team pulled our relaunch together. It was really good, and the amount of people that were reaching out, going, "Oh my goodness, I'm loving this!" Did really well.
100%. That is awesome, and it looks great. And it's more true to what you are, and you're happy about it, right? And that's really the important thing. Like I said, I'm of the camp, but everybody can be happy. It might not be with you, it might not be with your, how things are right now, but like everybody deserves to be happy, and that requires sometimes a big change, big shift, sometimes a little shift. To make it happen. I mean, with me, with the entrepreneurs, I got burned out because not only was I doing it 5 days a week, plus I was doing all the reaction videos, but like just the news in general, like there was just so many negative things. I'm trying
So
to like
much.
spin it to be like hopeful or positive like outlook in some way, shape, or form, and it's just like it was literally draining me from the inside
Yeah, not
out.
cool. But I would love to hear your big win. What's your big win of or standout for 2021, Joe?
So my favorite thing of 2021, I I think my goal. Well, we'll get to our words for 2022, our theme words, but my theme word for 2021 was consistency, and
Uh-huh.
my favorite thing was that I actually was able to accomplish that this year, was get consistent and really make an impact with what I've been able to build here with the channel. So my favorite thing would be YouTube, right? And
Oh,
really
100%.
committing and diving deep into it, and not enabling myself to feel guilty that like, ooh, I'm underserving my podcast or anything like that. My podcast talents have actually gone up too, even though I'm not posting on the regular there day in and day out. So it all kind of comes together, and consistency was my ability to be as consistent as I possibly could, but also giving myself the space where there was, I've shifted my release schedule based on like the YouTube algorithm. So it's like, my goal is to release it like 5 days a week, 11 a.m. Eastern, 5 days a week, right? But that doesn't always pan out. And when it doesn't pan out, I'm not like ready to, jump off the bridge over it. So giving myself the space to say, you know what, it's not even necessary. It's not even necessarily necessary to feel like that, because the algorithm is taking care of things at the same time. And yeah, I mean, I one thing I did want to address before we get to the theme word for 2022. So I did have a computer problem earlier this week. I didn't post about it on Facebook or Instagram. I did post about it on YouTube in the community, like a community blog post. My Windows 10 Explorer decided that it no longer wanted to operate the way it was supposed to operate. And I actually had to format my computer. And while I have a lot of stuff backed up, like almost like 98.9% of stuff backed up, it took like a day and a half to like get all of my settings in line so I could start getting back to making videos. And I was hoping to do it today, but it just didn't pan out. Hopefully tomorrow I will start being able to shoot some videos again, and Monday we'll be releasing some new reaction videos and things of that nature. So hopefully that will be a thing. Yes, I did some tests and I was able to get those tests through YouTube, but YouTube's been taking care of me, and the views have actually been sloping upwards, trending upwards. So yeah, so it's like, even though I haven't released a video since Monday, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Theme word for 2022. What's yours, Sam?
Mine's wealth.
Wealth.
Yeah, and this is all about me. So when I pick a theme word, I use it as the lens that I make decisions in all of my life. So I've seen some posts on Facebook this year that people pick, business words and personal words and all these different words. And I'm like, no, I just pick one word, and it's the lens that we make all decisions through. So for me, wealth is, where am I making the investments in my life that are going to give me the long-term results, that are going to look after me forever. So it's like, from the food we eat to, our health, where we're living, our investments, so that we're being looked after financially as we, get older. That's our word. So really, really focusing in on making sure that we're setting things up for the future. That's our word.
I like that. That's it's not actually too far off from where I don't know that I have a single word, but it's the theme for me this year is like financial fixing. And because I have accrued so much debt since having our first kid back in 2016, and this is the year that I want to actually get like everything back on track, because like I was financially set, and like never really had credit cards. I had like one credit card for like I don't know, the first 10 years of my almost 10 years of my adult life or so. It just wasn't a thing for me. So, but then when we had kids, we needed more money, and things have just kind of like got super off the rails. And I started to fix most of the problem the middle of this year, I guess this year. So, so my goal is to financially fix the rest of it, hopefully by the end of this year. Not to be 100% debt free, because like that to me isn't super realistic in the I have a mortgage.
Well, also like not really great. Like if you're good with money, you understand you don't actually need to be debt free, right? You just need to be smart about how you use it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And look, I always say, like, the first rule is if you can use somebody else's money, use somebody else's money. If you can get 0% interest, use somebody else's money. You got to be responsible. Don't be dumb. Don't make bad decisions like Joe has in the last 4 or 5 years. But it's one of those things where look, I know what I need to do it, and I know that I can. I just haven't. And because it's one medical bill. I mean, it's like a constant, like with kids, it's just one constant stream of medical bills coming through the system. Every doctor's visit, any medications, all that stuff. It's just nonstop, unexpected bills. So want to get through that, and 2022 fixing my financial situation so that I can get back on track to where I was and feel more confident where I'm at and where I'm going. And that's being totally transparent. Like I'm, just being 100% honest with it.
Yeah.
What is so in the comments, in the chat, what is your theme word for 2022, as well as what is your goal or goals for 2022? Lou says his is to #rebuild.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. Get the foundations nice and strong. And John's in there as well. His word for 2022 is legacy. Love that. Yeah.
Love it. Locuta says, I used to work in a bank and I applied for one of their credit cards as I needed one, as the bank didn't issue Visa or Master debit cards. They refused me a credit card for some reason. When I was buying this house, I don't think I even had a credit card to my name at the time. And they were like, yeah, you should probably go and do that. So they're like, oh, go to JCPenney's, because I think it was JCPenney's or Kohl's, one or the other. They give cards to everybody. Everybody gets a card. I went there. I got declined.
Everybody except for Joe.
Everybody except for Joe. And I'm like, oh man, I've never missed a payment. Like I had a car payment, I think at the time, a motorcycle payment at the time. It just was not great for me. But since then, I still never miss a payment. So I'm not trying to fix my credit score. My credit score is fine. It's just overextended. And that's one of the things financial fix. I don't know if that's the term, but finance fix needs to be fixed.
Yeah, banks can do some crazy things back. When we sold our house for our first business back in the 90s, we had sort of paid off all our debt, and we were renting. We had no credit cards. Like we were just paying for everything. And it got to a point where we were ready to buy our next house, and the bank's like, we can't see that you can pay anything. So it was crazy. We went and bought a new car so that we could show that we could make payments, and then we could buy a house. I don't think the banks would do that in Australia these days, but banks.
I think a lot of things have changed.
Crazy.
In not all, and we're not even, when I bought this house, it was 2009. So even from like 2000 to 2009, things had changed. And in 2000, even today from 2009, things have definitely, it's always evolving as to what they want and how. Like I don't know that I could do it today. I don't know that I could make it work today if I had to go and buy a house. So like fortunately I already have that base covered.
Yes.
Very, very, very fortunate, very, very blessed to be able
definitely different
to do
now.
that.
Definitely different now.
What is one of your goals for 2022, Sam?
Oh, one of our goals, business wise, I have set a pretty hefty goal to have, a certain number. I want a certain number of people in my program. So that's business wise. We've set that goal. Personal, definitely want to buy a new house this year. Oh,
Mm.
Lou bought a house. Nice.
Yeah, congratulations. Was that up here or down in Florida? Where I know you tend to be. Locuta says, I spoke to my manager about it and he said, go and see so and so in new business and explain the situation. I explained the situation to the new business manager and she said, reapply and give the application to her to approve. She got the application to be approved, but she said sometimes the only way you can get credit is if you go into debt.
Same as my story. Crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the thing is if you don't have I know like my grandfather ran into that kind of issue where he had nothing in his name. So when it was time for him to actually go and use credit for something, he had nothing. I mean, he had the business, but that wasn't I mean, it wasn't an LLC, so
It wasn't in his personal name.
Yeah, it wasn't his personal name. So it became a problem like when he actually needed to get some money borrowed. Because things weren't like the old days where it's just like, oh yeah, let me just rubber stamp that for you. Like it's no big deal. I mean, I ran into this when I first got my LLC. I went to my bank and I said, hey, like I know the manager. We've been dealing with this bank for a long time in the family and all that. And I was like, hey, can I get a credit card, even if it's just like a couple $100 for the business name? And she's like, well, I tried. And they said, no, come back in a year. And I'm like, really? Like you're worried about like $200-300, like I'll personally guarantee it. It's not like it's a ton of money. I'm not asking for a $10,000 credit card, limit credit card or something. Like give me something so I can build it. But they want to see the financials and stuff after a year, blah 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 blah. So sometimes it's more complicated than even just knowing the people, right? And being able to just like, oh yeah, you're good. And that was a rubber stamping motion, not the other motion.
Which is good because that's what I thought it was.
Yes, that was the rubber stamping motion. Anyway, my goal for 2022, goals for 2022. Business wise, continue to blow up the YouTube channel, the coaching business, consulting business. And continue to grow shopsuperjoe.com, which somebody in my comments reminded me. They said, oh, I love the fact that you stick, you stay to the video and I don't even know if you sell anything. And I'm like, I'm literally wearing a shirt and there's a book with my name and you can barely see the name on the book, but there's a book behind me and there's a big banner in most of my videos that say shopsuperjoe.com and it's right there in the description. But hey, I guess I need to be a little more like, hey, go to shopsuperjoe.com and get yourself a super entrepreneur shirt. Or one of the other like 15 designs or whatever that's on there. Anyway, point being is that is my business goal is to expand all of that and grow a couple different revenue streams through that. I would say the other thing is, and I don't know if we're going to be able to pull it off, but I would love to have Indie PodCon in person this year in September.
Good luck.
I kind of already feel like the plug is already kind of being pulled before it's pulled. But maybe that's just me not being optimistic enough that by September, apparently, but it's not even September because people need time to book flights. People need time to feel confident. People need time to get hotels. Like it's not a local conference by any means. I mean, Sam's been here to Philadelphia before for it from Australia. So we have an international audience that does come. Now, I don't know that will happen by September, but at least we have people flying in from all over the country as well. So it's there's more moving parts to it than just like, oh, cool, we have this local thing and people just show up. So my hope is that.
Nice. Sending all the good vibes, all the good healthy vibes.
Thank you. Lou says, took me all of 2020 to strengthen my credit. And in December 31st, 2020, I signed the contract on this build. They finished it in July and I moved in this summer. Ding, ding. Congratulations, Lou.
Love it.
Love hearing that.
Consistency.
Do you know who John Madden is? Sam?
No, I did see something pop up in my news feed yesterday, and I felt like I should know who that person is, and I don't.
Oh man, well Leon knows who that is because I'm sure
I'm
he's played the
sure he
Madden
would.
football games.
I'm sure he would. That's the only way that I knew the name was from the games, but I'm going to bow out and let you take over right here.
Well, so he is iconic in so many ways, and listening to the radio, like the sports talk radio here in Philly the last few days, people talked about things I mean I didn't know much about his background because he, by the time he his last game I think that he called was in the beginning of 2009, was a Super Bowl in 2009. And I didn't really get into football until like 2004. So there was only like a 5-year span where like I would see him on TV and all that. But obviously I knew the games from being a kid, going back to the 90s, like early 90s and all that. But I didn't know all of the things. Ironically, they actually did a full-on documentary about his life that released on Christmas Day. And then he passes away on Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah, and apparently it was unexpected. I don't know that they've released what he passed away from. But the reason I wanted to bring it up was because so one of the things that he did that nobody else did was, at least at the time, was inject simplicity into a game that is very much complicated. And he would use the telestrator, was one of the first people to use a telestrator, like where you get the right on the screen and and he would use it in such a goofy way to like tell jokes and like make fun of things and like draw like cartoon characters and stuff. A turducken, where you take a turkey and put it inside of a duck inside of a turkey.
Yeah.
Yes, inside of a turkey.
And chicken as well.
Yes,
turkey, duck, and chicken.
Chicken. Yeah. Yes, and he it's like a turkey with 6 legs. Yeah, so he just had this way of being really charismatic, but at the same time be able to bring things down to a level that people could understand, and really helped enable a couple generations of fans of football, of the sport. It's a complicated sport. There's a lot of rules and a lot of things going on, and breaking it down to a really basic level for people to enjoy. And I was wondering, was there somebody that you could think of that would fall under that, like, they took something and made it simple and effectively changed the course of time with it?
Oh, wow, Joe.
If you can't think of one, I'll give you one. It's a really easy one. It's really
I guess Ray
fruit.
Kroc is the first person that I think of in that same way, but
not who I was going to say.
Tell me who you were going to say.
Steve Jobs, right? Breaking technology down to a simplistic art form, and enabling people to, obviously Steve Wozniak was the one who actually made that happen. But if it wasn't for Steve Jobs, then that wouldn't have been a thing. He would have just been fine programming programming his days away.
That's right. Like he was a good programmer, obviously, but Steve Jobs was the one that pushed it to go in the way that it did.
And Ray Kroc is a great example from McDonald's for people who haven't watched The Founder or know anything about that. Lou says the Beatles. Yes.
Ooh, that's a bit thinking outside the box. I like it.
It is. Growing up, I wasn't a Beatles fan, and now I appreciate it more than I did growing up. As I don't know why. I guess I felt it was maybe too hipsterish as a teenager to be like, oh yeah, the Beatles. Like, okay, great. Like, I want to hold your hand, hooray! But like later on in life, realizing like, oh wow, like there was an awful lot of magic that was happening there that transcended the musical scape.
Their background story of how they got there is very cool, but we'll do that on another day because we are really
very much out of time. Yes, I very much agree. But we have just enough time to thank our sponsor, which is yourpodcastconcierge.com. Thank you so much, Leon, for going through editing these podcast episodes for us and getting them up over at businessgeekspodcast.com. It's an absolute pleasure. If you have a podcast and you want to get it up on the internet, get it edited, and you don't want to have to do all that headache work that I've done for numbers and numbers of years at this point, go to yourpodcastconcierge.com. I hope I said it right. It's not my
You did.
concierge. I did say it right.
You got
ding,
it right
ding.
this week. Ding, ding. That's a great way to round out 2021. I think it's the first time you've got it right.
But will I get the time right? Hey.
Oh.
Join us next week for, Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Time on Friday, Australian Eastern, Friday, 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Time here on the Business Geeks Podcast. Hope you have an amazing New Year, everybody.
Happy
Take
New
care,
Year,
be safe.
everyone.
Stay away from the virus, please, for everybody's sake.